Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Coburn, and today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Indianapolis Colts versus Cincinnati Bengals Week 8 matchup based on analytics. Each week, I collect all of the 2017 NFL team data in order to analyze and project potential NFL performance. And since it's a weekly collection, there will always be some fluidity in terms of team trends each week. However, there will always be little nuggets of truth that could become bigger nuggets of truth as the season continues. So stick around as I analyze each week's matchups based on analytics. And if you're new to the channel, all terms and definitions will be in the description. So, starting with this game between the Colts and the Bengals. When you look at the NFL stat basic comparisons, which essentially looks at how the offense is doing, how the defense is doing, how special teams is doing, most of the data favors the Cincinnati Bengals, but it's a lot closer than you might think. There are some areas where the Colts are actually better than the Bengals. So let's get into some of the reasons why the Bengals are favored, and then some of the things that kind of favor the Colts ultimately in this matchup. So starting with the basic first down data, again, the total O score and the total D score. The total O score is basically a score given to teams, and it's judged by how many first downs they create as a offense. And the total D score is the ability to prevent first downs as a defense. And the Bengals beat the Colts in both those categories. Pretty much, the Bengals are the top defense in the NFL when it comes to preventing first downs, whether it's with the run or the pass. And the offense of the Bengals is a little bit better as well in terms of that regard. However, there are some areas where the Colts are better. First of all, the Colts are better when it comes to turnover percentage. They don't turn the football over as much as the Bengals have up to this point this year. On top of that, offensive score percentage, which is basically how often do you score on each offensive drive. Like how many times do you score, basically, the tendency of scores per drive. The Colts are actually better than the Bengals in that respect. The Bengals just don't really create a lot of points on offense, and that's been an issue that's been plaguing them this whole year. So the Colts, have somewhat of an advantage with their offense when it comes to putting up points. Now, when it comes to preventing sacks, the Bengals definitely have that, but both these teams are pretty much in the bottoms of the NFL when it comes to allowing sacks. So that's definitely one area where there really isn't a true advantage because both teams are not that great when it comes to preventing sacks. Now, when you get to the defensive side of the football, this is the area where the Bengals start to shine a little more, and is also why the Bengals are favored. The Bengals have a better defense when it comes to preventing points. The Bengals are not amazing when it comes to preventing points on defense, but I think a lot of that also has to do with the fact that their offense is an issue. Whenever you have an offense that's a little bit more balanced, your defense can kind of shine a little more. Is basically what I'm trying to say. But yeah, the Bengals do have a better defense than the Colts. The Bengals also have a better sack percentage than the Colts. The Colts only get the Colts sack percentage score, which basically how often do you get sacks on each drive. The Colts have a 14.80 when it comes to that, whereas the Bengals have a 94.96. So when it comes to just that basic stuff right there, it's pretty clear that the Bengals are favored when it comes to sacks. Turnovers is more so with the Colts, though. The Colts have a better turnover percentage, better interception percentage, but it is important to note that a lot of the interceptions and the turnovers were primarily driven by Malik Hooker, who unfortunately is lost for the rest of the season. So that's definitely going to be somewhat of an issue because the primary driver of that, the main reason why the Colts have done so well in terms of turnovers, at least better than the Bengals, is because of the player that's no longer there. So I would say that advantage is back to kind of even between both these teams because Malik Hooker is going to be out, unfortunately, for the rest of the year and, of course, this game. Now, when you get to special teams data, where you're talking about punt returns, kick returns, the Bengals are better when it comes to punt return yardage on offense, but the Colts are better when it comes to kick return yardage. And in terms of defending punt return yardage and defending kick return yardage, the Colts are better in both those regards. Whether you're talking defending punt returns or defending kick returns, the Colts are better in both those areas. Field goal percentage is more so with the Colts. Extra point percentage is more so with the Bengals. And punting average is also more so with the Bengals. But overall, special teams does look to be more so in favor of the Colts. So I will say that much. The special teams data does favor the Colts in a lot of different areas, especially in terms of field goal percentage, which could be very important if this is a close game that could be determined by a field goal. That's going to be really important. So I would say overall, special teams definitely goes to the Colts. Offense is a bit of a toss-up. You could make the case that it is the Colts because they don't turn the football over a lot, but both these offenses really don't put up a lot of points. But I will say that the offense does go to the Colts. But the big factor that really makes the Bengals who they are, like the only reason why the Bengals are favored in this game is because of their defense. Their defense is really good compared to their offense. Because keep in mind, this is an offense that's worse than the Colts, and they've been able to manage more success. In terms of just having an offense that doesn't score a lot, they've still been able to win football games because of their defense. So from that perspective, that is really the only reason why the Bengals are favored in this game, is because of their defense. Their defense, they will expect their defense to kind of get some big stops. But when you look at some other sort of data points, so we're going to get into some other sort of comparison stuff. So this is the Bengals offense versus the Colts defense when it comes to completion percentage. Not going to get too much into this, but mostly favors the Bengals in terms of first and second down. Then you look at the Colts offense versus the Bengals defense when it comes to completion percentage, and this heavily favors the Bengals on all three downs. So again, Bengals coming up in terms of completion percentage on offense and defense. Then you look at rushing down. So this is the rushing offense of the Bengals versus the rushing defense of the Colts, and the Colts actually have the advantage here. The Colts have a above average running defense or rushing defense. So that's going to be something that's going to be interesting to see how this turns, how this affects this game. The Bengals have been a little wishy-washy in terms of who they commit to running the football, whether it's Joe Mixon or trying to, whoever. But for the most part, this is definitely something that I think the Colts, will have some success. Then you get to rushing downs for the Colts. So this is the Colts rushing offense versus the Bengals rushing defense, and this favors the Bengals defense. The Bengals are another team that has a very good overall rushing defense. And when you look at the Bengals passing offense versus the Colts passing defense, this mostly favors the Bengals here. This is, even though the completion percentage issues that the Bengals have still exist, especially when it comes to third down situations, they're still able to have relatively decent success converting, whether you're talking first downs or third down situations. So I still think the Bengals will be favored here because of those particular downs and distances over the Colts. Then when you look at the Colts offense versus the Bengals defense when it comes to passing downs, overwhelmingly favors the Bengals defense in that respect. Then you look at sacks. This is the Bengals offense versus Colts defense when it comes to allowing sacks versus sacks forced. And the Bengals are pretty favored here in terms of first and second down. Third down is the only issue. The majority of the sacks that the Bengals have given up have been on third down situations. So that's definitely the number one down to kind of see if that has any effect in this game. And of course, you look at the Colts offense versus Bengals defense when it comes to sacks, and the Bengals have the advantage here, of course, on first, second, and third down. Then you look at interception ratio, Bengals offense versus Colts defense when it comes to interceptions, and the Colts have the advantage here, whether you're talking first down, second down situations. But again, it is important to remember that most of these interceptions, turnovers, were mostly the result of Malik Hooker. And since Malik Hooker is not on the team anymore, that definitely kind of changes the landscape of things. And then finally, when you look at the Colts offense versus the Bengals defense when it comes to picks, mostly favors the Colts offense in that respect. So overall, how do I feel about this game? Well, I still think that this is a Bengals victory. There is a chance the Colts could win this. I mean, that's the biggest thing I just want to get out there, is that this is a pretty evenly matched game when you look at both these teams from the standpoint of putting points on the board versus having the defense to prevent points. There are some areas where the Colts match up pretty well, but the one thing I really am giving the Bengals in this game is the absence of Malik Hooker. Malik Hooker was a bright spot, but he was a major aspect in terms of maybe not giving this defense an identity, but definitely giving it something to put its, hang its hat on. And with him being injured, I think that changes this defense. Like, I really do. I really think this kind of changes the way this defense can operate, can find success, and as a result, that's why I just feel like it's just not going to end very well in this particular game. So as much as I don't trust the Bengals offense, and I think there's a lot of dysfunction to it, I still think that they'll be able to, at least on defense, be able to limit the Colts offense enough and do its job. And ultimately, that's kind of why I see a Bengals victory here. And of course, you can find my other work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Geometrics. And if you like this content and you want more content like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Share this video as well with anybody that you know. And I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.